From Los Angeles, it's Alone with Rome. Welcome back. My guest is the UFC heavyweight champion. He takes on Cain Velasquez this Saturday. Brock Lesnar joining me in studio. Brock, great to have you here. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Brock, that is an epic beard. Congratulations.
Thanks. Viking power.
I was going to say, what does that mean? Is that a matter of if you're going to be the baddest guy in the world, you've got to maintain that look?
Well, I'm from Minnesota. You know, it's getting cold and deer season starts real soon. So, you know, it's for the last 3 years I've just been growing out a beard for the winter time, and it's only right to show up for the fight with a beard.
You know, at prime time, big fight this weekend. Before we talk about that, let me get your thoughts on the Shane Carwin fight. Not that you were lacking for confidence before the fight, but to come back and win that fight the way you did, what did that do for your confidence?
Well, it's, you know, when you're put in a position in a fight like that and you have to work off your back and you're underneath a 265-pound beast to get up and to dust it off and get back on the horse again, it's definitely a confidence booster.
You know, he had you in some trouble in that first round. How badly hurt were you?
Well, I wouldn't say at the moment, you know, you're still trying to figure out how you're gonna, you know, fix the situation. So I mean, my bell was rung, and you know, you're down and out. But what's going through your mind is let's get out of here. How can we get out of here without doing any more damage?
Now, were you at all concerned that while you were trying to figure that out, the referee might not give you the time that you needed to figure that out?
Absolutely. That came to mind one time, and I thought, you know what, I got to keep moving. I have to keep moving. So everything came out all right.
You know, you've made so much progress in a relatively short period of time. Talk to me about the biggest challenge you faced in making the jump from pro wrestling to MMA.
Well, pro wrestling kind of just helps me out with this kind of stuff. I mean, it was, you know, we're in pro wrestling, we're selling big matches and big events. To help me out on the PR side a little bit of things, but I'm a former amateur wrestler. You know, my roots, I started wrestling when I was 5 years old. And so that's truly who I am. And I wouldn't be in this sport if it wasn't for the sport of amateur wrestling.
You know, it's funny when you say that sort of thing helped you out with this. I talked to Dana White earlier today, and I said, talk about the way you market the sport and promote the sport. He said, Brock Lesnar might be the biggest star in the sport, but he's the only guy that we don't make do that stuff because Brock doesn't like people, and that's why he lives out in the middle of the woods somewhere. I mean, is he being funny, or is there something to that?
No, I mean, you know, I've been in front of the camera for 10, 12 years. I was, you know, a star at the University of Minnesota, and then I went on to World Wrestling Entertainment, wannabe NFL player, and here I am, the UFC heavyweight champion. I just don't put myself out there to the fans and prostitute my private life to everybody. In today's day and age with the internet and cameras and cell phones, I just like being old school and living in the woods and living my life.
You know, you talk about the NFL, you gave that a shot. Hey, listen, you didn't want to start at the very bottom here. You said, look, either I can do this or I can't do it, but I'm not going to go to the minor leagues, and it's worked out pretty well. What about the NFL? Did you think that you were going to have the same effect there that you've had here?
Well, I'll tell you this. When I got in a training camp and I was there 2 days, and I told myself, what am I doing here? You know, because I was just totally lost. I mean, these guys are, you know, the athlete today is bigger, stronger, and faster, and to be there and not know what the hell you're doing was, you know, it was probably risking my life in some matters.
I mean, okay, so did you know so much more about what you were doing here because of your wrestling background?
Absolutely.
And what about the quality of athletes that you were facing here?
Absolutely. You know, I mean, now when you go into a training camp, an NFL training camp, these guys, this is their life. Football is their life. You know, to me, football was a second-hand sport. I always labeled myself as a wrestler. And now, in the heavyweight division and in all the divisions, the wrestler is taking over the MMA. I mean, this is, you got to have the grassroots is wrestling.
Well, and the NFL can't be a second-hand sport or a hobby, or that's going to get you really hurt.
Exactly.
In fact, weighing on the headshot thing, which is more dangerous, MMA or the NFL?
You know, I would have to say that they're both extremely dangerous, but you know, these like I said, bigger, stronger, faster. These guys are cruising, and that's a scary thing. I mean, some of them hits last weekend were pretty scary. The risk of paralyzation, the risk of death is a huge factor in both sports. I think that's what intrigues the fans. I mean, I wouldn't say it intrigues them, but people, since you're a young kid, since Pee Wee football, you want to lay hits on people. And that's what people come to watch and see, and to try to have these guys regulate themselves. So that's going to be a tough thing for the NFL.
So what you're saying is leave the thing alone. It's not broken. Don't fix what's not broken.
I don't think it is. You know, I mean, you could try to shorten the field, widen the field, or you could try to lay rules down. But I mean, you're just going to take away from the game, I think, and what people really enjoy and love to watch.
You know, Brock, you suffered a near-fatal bout of diverticulitis. Talk to me about that. I mean, you were really, really sick enough to have your career in jeopardy. Was your life in jeopardy at any point?
Absolutely, it was. I mean, I had a perforation in my stomach, in my colon, and I was releasing gases into my stomach cavity, and I was in a bad situation, and I didn't, with not the right medical care that I was supposed to be getting, and if I would have let it go on any longer, it would have been very severe. People die from this, from the sickness that
You
I've
bet.
had.
So what were you thinking? I mean, you're in your early 30s, you think you're in great shape, you're a world-class athlete, and then all of a sudden you were really, really sick. I mean, did you have any idea what was going on?
Well, you have to take a step back and say, what am I doing wrong? I mean, you know the things that you do in life that are right. So how can I fix the wrong things that I'm doing? And so it was an eye opener for me. It made me appreciate life in general. And I'm not the kind of guy that really takes a lot of things for granted, because at one time, I came from nothing, and at any moment you could have nothing in this day and age. So, but I mean, it was an eye opener for sure.
I mean, were you doing anything wrong? Or did you just get sick?
No,
What changes did you make?
It was just a matter of, I had to change my diet up. Your mama says eat your vegetables, and Brock wasn't eating his vegetables. He was taking a plate and sticking them under and feeding them to the dog.
So, I mean, in fact, you look like you've leaned out. What are you walking around at right now?
270.
Okay, so what's a cheat day? Once a week, you gotta have a cheat day, right?
Cheat. I have a cheat day. Last week, a couple slices of pizza.
Oh boy, good job.
Yeah.
All right, you got Velasquez coming out. Talk about this. You're both heavyweights, of course, but he's smaller. If you were him, how would you prepare for you? How do you simulate you in training?
That's a tough thing. I just don't think as a guy in the division. One thing I really, without stroking my own or tooting my own horn, is I'm very athletic, and I'm big, and I'm fast, and I can take this fight in any direction that I want to. I think that have the power to do that. How do you train for a guy like that? I mean, if I want to take him down, I think I'm capable of taking anybody in the heavyweight division down to the ground. And if I want to keep him there, I can keep him there. I really believe in that.
All right, so how did you train for him, and what did you work on in camp for this fight?
Well, I need to work on my hands. I've been working on my hands from the beginning, and in today's UFC, in MMA, you have to be a well-rounded fighter. And if I want to stay the champion for a long time, I got to be the best well-rounded fighter and evolve with the sport.
Hey, Brock, last thought. What do you make of Chael Sonnen saying what he said about your knife and your haircut, and you should stop eating raw eggs and doing push-ups because it's affecting your realm of reality, and then he'd slap you in the face and you do nothing? You heard that whole thing?
I don't know who he is.
That guy? You recognize that guy right there?
I don't know. Is he a fighter? I don't know who he is.
I guess that answers that question. Yeah, you don't know who that guy is?
No.
All right. I'm not going to push it. All right, Brock.
I was serious. Yeah, I don't.
All right. Good to see you. Appreciate that. Thanks so much. Good to see you. Good luck. All right. When we come back, Brandon Marshall weighs in on the NFL's crackdown.